2 o'clock. Welcome to Economy and Infrastructure, STC, which is the last one of this year. Yeah, put it down. We're having a party afterwards. I'm not telling you where it is. To get off of the pontoon, you mean. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Mike White.
And then 2 disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest. Nobody, if you think of anything while we're going through, shout out. And 3 then is to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record, pages 1 to 4. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Somebody move? Okay, thank you. And is seconded, yeah. Thank you very much. And then that's straight on Mr. Horrells, who's taking us to Tower Riverside Corridor Action Plan.
Thank you, Chair. So I think the last time myself and Gail Evans presented was February last year. I think we both had flu, so we were both online, but I'm here now and I haven't got flu. So, so what I've tried to do in the reports with Gail is we're kind of in between different steps at the moment. So I've tried to give you an update on where we are with the different strands of work on the Towie Riverside and some of the next steps as we see them coming forwards. And there'll be a further report to give more detail in the coming months as well, because there's a lot going on in the corridor as a whole, but there's also been some substantial progress as well for you to note. I think you're familiar with the context, so I won't go through that in too much detail in section 2, but maybe just a reminder of I think what we've pretty much determined in our current discussions, for example, with Urban Splash, is that the current deliverables, so to speak, are the levelling up project and the various strands of that, and particularly project 1 at Havermore Copper Works. The first building on site is the laboratory building, and actual physical works will be starting around September time, once we've dealt with some bats and made some provision for them. And in the meantime, the designs to Riga 3 and beyond are taking place for all the other structures around the site. But one of the critical things for the corridor is the permeability, and pleased to say that the first pontoon, which we previously secured funding for, is now in place, and that can be used from the spring. So that is there now. So I mean, if you're joking about having a party, you can have a party thereafter if you want. Not sure the Copperjack is in service just yet. I think it's been lifted out for some repairs, but as soon as the Copperjack is back in service, that is there. So that is actually a tangible bit of infrastructure that shows the way the rest of the programme is going to go, and the further 2 pontoons then that will add towards High Street and nearer to the stadium add to that connectivity along the corridor, which is quite important. So I guess it's important that, you know, from a policy perspective, you can see that the initial kind of manifesto commitment of having a pontoon is there, but the further ones will add further connectivity and more functionality to the corridor at key points, because it's quite a long distance down that river corridor, but also that particular strip between the pontoon that's there now and for example to the Sail Bridge, it's quite a luscious corridor of a green corridor that you could be in mid Wales from certain angles, which considering where it was maybe 30 years ago is really significant, isn't it?
Just on the pontoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, we discussed it many years ago when we went down the river on the Copperjack to have a look at it, and one of the things we were pushing for was the pontoon. Have we now got anything in place to advertise for river taxis, or is it too soon?
It's a little too soon yet. The current agreement with the Duke of Beaufort is for community use, which is effectively the Copperjack, but there is provision, I believe, in what's been agreed to look at commercial uses, but obviously there'd probably be some kind of levy on any commercial operators, so we'll have to look at the detail of that. I mean, obviously that's the intention going forward, but initially it is the community use that just short term, and just to get people used to it, in fact, actually having that facility there, because obviously there's water management issues as well for Tracy McNulty's area, and safety issues and everything else that we need to work through, but the facility's there now, and it's also got the provision for longboats for the likes of the rowing clubs to use immediately as well. So those facilities are there. But yeah, that is something we are looking at. I will have to be looking at that a bit more firmly for the additional 2 pontoons that should be in by say middle of next year, hopefully. Yeah, so we'll certainly be looking at that. Yeah, that's definitely the aspiration. And clearly, the manifesto commitment was about river taxis. Obviously, the Copper Jack is the operational passenger boat on the river at the moment, and the nice thing is that from the spring, as soon as it's back in water, it'll be able to make use of the facility straight away. And that probably ties in as an aside to, for example, the Friends of Avonmore are already starting their tours now every fortnight from, I think, this weekend or maybe next weekend. So you've got 80+ people attending those walks every fortnight, certainly last year. So you will have the footfall, and if the Copper Jack is docking, instead of having to wave to it from the water side, you will be able to get on, hopefully. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. And yeah, I'll take the commercial question away, and we'll certainly look at that and make sure it's being considered. It's definitely part of the plan. And in terms of the laboratory, has been a long-standing aspiration as the next key building to be on site as well. So that's progressing towards being. We've got the appointed contractor now, which is John Weavers again, and they should be starting physical works on the building in September. Once we've got BAT mitigations in place. The other buildings, as I say, are working through design as we speak. But I guess those are, so we've got a mix of deliverables showing the direction of travel, quite literally in some cases, as well as the broader programme, and fitting with the evolving situation of the master plan. And I think we discussed with you last time that the nature of the master plan for the corridor is taking the form of actions as opposed to sweeping statements almost. And I guess the levelling up programme itself is the first example of that, where there are certain critical things we have to do to make the site what it is. The history of the site is what underpins it, so the heritage buildings have to be the top of the priority, as well as for use by the public, the connectivity side of it. So those are the things that are being prioritised currently. Alongside that, and I'm just skipping to the kind of the next steps. We have been obviously with the design work is progressing on the Lower Swansea Valley programme as a whole, but the work on the master plan has also progressed to an extent with Urban Splash. There is a working draft now in existence, but what's coming out of those discussions, which is probably important for you to consider, is the nature of the site is such that it's going to need a balance of uses on it, and those will probably be suggested by the kinds of activity that might want to co-locate with the initial operators that are on site. So you have Penderyn. The laboratory lends itself to possibly a high-end restaurant use. There has been some interest in that already informally, which will go to market. The construction around the engine houses might well lend itself more to a cafe use. And then the wider plateau is quite a large area with no specific definition other than pockets of contamination that you'd have to avoid when you're digging, because your shovel will melt if you put it in certain places. So it's just thinking about what is going to fit effectively on that site and how that works with, say if Skyline does get approved, how you fit in with the buildings there and making something work. So you could do a drawing of what it might look like, and we have the 2013 Purcell master plan. Splash have got a further outline currently, again, of potential massing and what that might look like, but the end result is going to be a bit of, one step forward, two steps back, and trying to discern almost what's going to work well on that site and how that's going to fit with, say, we put the pontoons in place, and there are only certain places those can go. We get the walkways addressed, so you've got all the connectivity. But what mix of uses actually then cluster is to an extent open to the market, and what people think is going to work there, and then what sort of scale people want, because a single use could take up the whole of that plateau. Maybe that's not what we want, and parking is an issue as well. So ultimately, longer term, probably going to need to be looking at some kind of multi-storey car park in the vicinity of where that goes. But then you can't devote the entire site to parking either. So that all these questions are being looked at, and it's going to be, as I say, an iterative process, I would suggest. So that there should be something available in the next few months for consultation the public and to look at this in a bit more detail. But again, it depends what operators might occupy the buildings that we're dealing with initially, and the level of footfall that the facilities actually generate. Clearly, the stadium does generate a substantial amount of footfall. There's no question about that. But is that people going in and then going straight back out again? Are they going to hang around for a coffee at the engine houses, for example, or are they going to want to walk 10 miles to their car? It's those sorts of questions that we have to be looking at. So having the alternative modes like the pontoons and water access and things like that start to become significant. But obviously that's got wider implications as well, isn't it? So I guess it's kind of to reassure that all that is being considered, as well as the other potential projects along the corridor, such as the St Thomas Station site, which have been covered in other places, and that we're on a journey with this site. The money that we've got available at the moment is substantial, but it's going to take considerable further sums in order to realise the full aspiration, and some of that, hopefully, by de-risking the site, will be coming from the private sector, for example. So that's kind of the broad sweep, without reading the report line for line, because I'm sure you've read it and the initial thoughts. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Oh, I'm excited now because I came into this meeting today and I thought, oh, do you know what? We're talking about the river corridor all the time, but we don't seem to be getting anywhere with it. The pontoon, great, because that was a massive conversation, which was before COVID. So I'm really, really pleased. This is what's looking for. You know, with that grant funding, it's moving for. I hate water, so I don't know why I'm so excited, but it is exciting because we are a seafaring city and we need to use our river, and we need to use it in the way you have described, and the things that people can put in. If we had a workshop again, or it will work, because that was like a workshop when we did that. I think it works. But I did think myself, oh, your Paul's going to say something good now. And you have, so I'm quite pleased, and I would think everybody else.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't want to know about financial. I don't want to know are you going to do it, because it will be done. And I know others will take that with their hands up now, so I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Ed. Stuart,
Thank
I hope
you.
you're not afraid of water. I hope you're not afraid of water as well.
No, I'm not afraid of water. I just wanted to firstly thank Paul, Ralph and the team behind this, because it's exciting, and there are plenty of good projects that are coming forward with this. I've got a couple of little questions alongside. Obviously, you linked it in earlier to what might or may not happen with Skyline and the potential site allocation there. But what I was also interested in is another part of the wider project for the levelling up, which is to do with the museum and the buildings that are already on site have a Morva, which hold most of the museum's additional storage for artifacts. And also in terms of, I know that there may be a smaller allocation of space for the West Glamorgan Archive when it moves from the Civic Centre over to its new location in Oxford Street. I wondered if there was any plans as a part of enabling this project to make sure that there's enough space for storage or for display, or so that the general public can see more of the wonderful things that we've got in our stores.
Yeah, just to come back on that, Councillor Rice. Yeah, obviously the store is a treasure trove of fascinating objects, and I think anyone that goes in there, it's outstanding. The intention for the museum is to create more gallery space to enable more of those artifacts to be put on display in rotation, and to enable more of those items to be seen. There's also, I guess, a consideration, obviously, though that is subject to future resources, on as the wider site develops, what elements that are contained within the store could be on display as part of the wider site itself, and potentially even access to the facility in due course, which is something I think Urban Splash are quite interested in, and something they've done in their other locations. It's still very early days for that yet, but the initial thing is more gallery space in the museum itself to enable more objects to be displayed, which is key. Not everything in the store is related to the site, so that's quite an important dynamic, is it's the whole of Swansea in that store, as opposed to, there are copper related items in there, but the bulk of it is wider Swansea. So, but that's definitely part of the considerations, Councillor Rice. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask the same question, is what's our forward plan with the museum stores? When you were saying hanging things in the museum, were you talking about the store's place to hang things up? Because I've been in there and you can't swing a cat in there.
No, that's in the museum itself. So there's an evolving design around the museum itself of adding space to it sensitively to the existing structure to create more gallery space at Swansea Museum itself. So that would be taking things out of the store, putting them there. The actual decants of the store itself, there's so much stuff in there. It's such a big building. You're not going to get all of that stuff down to the museum, but plus you wouldn't necessarily want to do that in a city centre location either. Anything in the city centre is premium space, isn't it? So it's more about having more gallery space at the museum itself and more accessibility for the public at that location initially.
Maybe next year, with whoever's on the committee, may ask for like a forward plan on the museum stores. You know, to attract people there, because now it's open one day a week, one morning a week or something like that. Yeah. Okay. But Will, over to you. Sorry to take up your time.
Thank you, Chair.
That's it. That's the end of your time.
Well, more than normal. That's great. Yeah, my question is just around the other potential commercial uses, really, which you alluded to earlier. You know, kayak hire, paddle boards, small motorized craft. Is that being considered? Also, the path on the other side of the river. Wondering, you know, to what degree that is being looked at, because obviously there's some industrial units right up to the river, I believe, and if you've looked with planning colleagues about and the LDP about rezoning some of that to residential and maybe trying to get that cycle path all the way through. So they're my questions. Thank you.
Take the cycle path one first. That's being actively looked at, and testing has been done. It's Swansea Industrial Components corner where there's a pinch point, but there is a design for constructing a walkway around that, going out using supports, and I understand Highways colleagues are looking actively at that at the moment, so there'll be a bit more information on that shortly. As regards the water sports uses, we haven't actually actively pushed that as a team yet, because the pontoon has only just gone in. It went in the autumn, just as everything went dark. But I think the key point, Councillor Thomas, with all of this is we're providing the platform where that sort of thing can absolutely happen, and there is business support available if people want to set up anything new to take that on. So it's a good time now to start looking at that. The facility is now provided. And it's providing the platform for that to happen. So I guess that, you know, the first step is getting it in, isn't it, and making sure that it's, and particularly that first pontoon, it's bigger than the others will be. It's more multifunctional than the others. You've got the ability to get into the water from the lower platform as well as the passenger end of it for the likes of the Copperjack and passenger boats. So that initial one is well placed for exactly what you're describing. Yeah.
Just on the sort of rezoning of, like, I know it might be not something you've been involved in, but with regards to the sort of LDP and how that looks and how we, you know, zone that land, you know, as you mentioned, industrial components, there's 2 or 3 other sort of commercial sites there, which arguably could be relocated if obviously it's their land, it's up to them what they do with it, but they could be anywhere really, is what my point is. And obviously residential and getting more people into the city centre and around that corridor seems to make sense. So I was just wondering if anyone had been in discussions with those sites really to see if they could be freed up for residential or that sort of thing. Thanks.
I think those discussions have been taking place over the years, not necessarily recently. And I guess when those conversations were taking place, the site hadn't progressed to the extent that it has now, and the extent it's going to progress over the next couple of years. So it may be timely to start looking at that again. Initially, that was less positive, but I guess as the site is moving in the direction it is, that it may be a good time certainly, or maybe once a couple more of the larger projects have hit site with the engine houses particularly, and the increase in footfall, it is going to, it's changing the environment over time, isn't it? So yeah, happy to take that back.
Okay, thanks for that. Just going on, you mentioned the Riverside Walkway where we'd have to come out into the riverside of it. There's a plan already in for that. How is that funded in? Is that the levelling up, or would we get money from the active travel?
My understanding is it would be active travel that's being pursued, I believe, but I can double check on that and get
Yeah.
back to you.
Because that's something we could push forward.
It would be a key active travel route, so
yeah.
it's a good candidate for
That's
active
excellent.
travel. Yeah.
On the other one then, 4.4 on the way forward, the draft revised master plan. It seems to have been everywhere except here. So
It's-
maybe the
yeah.
next committee may want to have a peek of it,
Yeah.
whether we do it as a working meeting or if there's anything that's you know that we don't want to go out into the public, whether we would have a private meeting on that.
Sure. There's still very high level drafts, and the comments from those other forums are informing that sort of direction. But yeah,
Yeah, and assume
I'll take that back.
we'd have
Yeah.
input then from the cabinet member as well when
Yeah,
we look
certainly.
at that master plan.
Yeah.
And 4.5 says a further report will be brought to STC later in spring. This is spring, so you're saying in the next 2 months? Because that'll be the end of spring then.
Potentially, yeah. We'll have a look.
Yeah. Whoever's chair
yeah,
and committee will obviously that'll be part of their work program then.
I think it's fair to say that the way work is evolving on this site is happening at quite a pace, so things are changing rapidly. So
this is a very exciting part of Swansea for tourism, which we identified many years ago when there was only the museum stores there. But you are right, car parking it would be because this car park will practically go. So it's how we do. They may not want all of it, so what we'll do is some of it. But anyway, yeah, it's an exciting area, especially if Skyline get the planning permission and they carry on. That will then open up that part of the area. Was a lot of land because we walked that as well to see what we could do with it. That's excellent. Stuart, is that old hand or have you put in your left hand up?
I've put my left hand up, I think, Chair.
Okay. Hello,
Just a couple of quick follow-up points. Thanks for your feedback and response, Paul, on the last points I made. I think it's very encouraging that you're looking at using some of the buildings as a further attraction. I think it will really add to the viability of any commercial businesses that go there in terms of restaurants or proposals for cafe space. Because I don't think another attraction at the site would make it a hub of cultural activity, and it's probably a good way forward. Picking up the points that were made about the river, have we looked at any enhancements or checks on the water quality in the river? And do we know the status of any riparian rights of use of the river? Because I heard him mention in passing earlier the Duke of Beaufort. So I don't know what the potential commercial opportunities might be and riparian opportunities there would be at that site, because that could add also to the attraction of the site and building it for future sustainability.
Sure. Just to add just to mention on the heritage hub type thing, the Musgrave engine itself in the between the two engine houses, one would be more suitable for F&B use. The other has the intact Musgrave engine in it, and therefore that's right for restoration. And the Friends of Avonmore have secured through another branch of my team, Shared Prosperity funding, to start work on the Barring engine, the starter motor for that. And that in itself is linking the community into the site and creating probably an active restoration program over the next decade, which, as you say, you know, absolutely agree. And plus for visitors coming on these tours, which again is through another small funding bit, they've got the walking trails that they can utilize now, which actually spreads up the whole valley, I have to say, and we're now looping in Park Llewellyn with that as well. The Lower Swansea Valley as a brand is beginning to get a little bit of traction, and it's igniting local people's memories of the site. I know it's really good. In terms of the water quality, I know that has been looked at as part of the installation of the pontoons and the potential uses that could come from that. And those reports do exist as part of the works for the installation of the first pontoon. There'll be further work done as part of the second 2 pontoons coming through. So that information will be available, I'm sure. I can check up on that though. Is that okay?
Right, I can't see anybody else. The only thing that comes to mind with me is it the Bascule Bridge? Because the Copperjack could only get up as far as where the pontoon is now. Then it would turn round.
Yes, good.
Can it go up further now?
Yes, it can. The good news is that the Bascule Bridge, when it was at risk of collapse, could have been a flood risk and did prevent craft going under it in case it fell on them. Now that it's temporarily removed, that obstacle is gone and it can no longer present a flood risk. But we have also got work starting on, I think, the western abutments. We have secured funding for the timbers for that side of the bridge, so that work is going to be progressing, I think, later in the spring. So you'll see repairs starting to happen on the western abutments. It's a longer project because it's a sensitive structure and it's timber. It's a 100-year-old timber structure that's sitting in the river. So we'd be looking very carefully with CAD at ways of how that actually takes place, because it's not a simple case of just lift it out and go to B&Q and get a few bits of plywood, isn't it? It needs sensitive restoration and to be looked at carefully. So the western abutment is the next thing that's going to be looked at on the Bascule Bridge, but you can navigate past it now.
And that's excellent, because people that are on the boat, they get to there and they think, oh, we can go up as far as Swansea.com Stadium, and all of a sudden he's turning round. So yeah, that's excellent news. Anybody else for any more? No? Thank you, Paul. Another good report on this. We are moving forward. Every time you come here, we've done a little bit more, which is very good. The next time you come here, we'll be saying where we're going to go when Skyline come down, if they get planning. And get a new one. Okay. Thank you very much for that. You can stay or leave. It's entirely up to you. Move on to item 5, which is the annual report. Mr. Holmes has taken us through this one.
Yeah, I will. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, just to say it's a very long report, but it doesn't take long to present it. It really just summarises all the work that the committee saw during the year. There were a number of substantive reports that were received following the work plan agreement, which was on the 8th of June. And the first report I just wanted to mention was the local economic delivery plan. So that was received by the committee. There's actually a typo in the report. It should read the 20th of July, not the 23rd of June. So that's paragraph 2.3, I think. But yeah, so that report was received and agreed. So that's all good. The next report that was received by the committee was the destination management plan, and I remember that meeting well. It was very well received, very good discussion. That was back on the 21st of September. Then there was a report on Swansea-based strategy projects. That was received on the 2nd of November, and there were some actions agreed there. Then the local economic delivery plan came back for a further update on the 14th of December. And pleased to say that work now is nearing completion. It may be one that the committee wants to see in the future in terms of the final product, given the inputs that have been made. On the 18th of January, there was quite a large report, the maintenance of road infrastructure. And again, I remember that one. Very good debate afterwards. And then likewise on the 29th of February, the More Homes Delivery Programme was presented. And again, a very good discussion followed that presentation as well. And of course, today we've had the update on the Tower Riverside Corridor as promised from Paul. So in terms of the annual report, Chair, it's there. It's a record of what the committee received and discussed during the year. And obviously happy to take any questions on it, but it really is a statement of fact in terms of the work undertaken during the year. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation, Phil, and the explanation. Yeah, it was a busy year. And before I ask Stuart to come in, I'd just like to thank everybody for their input into these debates. And it is strange for us to look forward to what we want to happen rather than look back on what has happened. We may learn about things that have happened, but it's not up to us to scrutinise what went on before. Yeah, so thanks again, because like I said, I don't know what this committee is going to be in the next 2 months when it's decided, but hopefully we all be back next June, I think it is, the first meeting. Stuart?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to reflect on your words as well. It's been a good committee and we've covered quite a lot of ground. One question I've just got for Phil, if I can, is one area that's of particular interest, and we had some discussion, was the Swansea Bay strategy and how we move forward with that. I understand now that there are some consultants being appointed who are going through periods of consultation about potential development along Swansea Bay. Is there any further update on where we are with that at the moment?
I wouldn't know. That is dealt with through my colleagues' team, Jeff Bacon. So they would be managing that. So I couldn't give you an update on that. I'd be guessing. So maybe that's something we can pick up outside the meeting.
Thank you.
Or if you're still on the committee, next time you can put it forward as part of the work plan, and then we can see where we're going to move forward from there. Because it's not for us to check what work is being done. It is strange, very strange. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Phil. No questions or comments? Okay, thanks. So today's meeting will be added to this report, and then it will go to full council on 16th of May. See how I knew that? Okay, thanks again. And then we got 6 is always in there, the work plan, but we haven't got a work plan because this is the end. So once again, thank you all, especially and all the ones that attended throughout the year. We've had a good attendance record. So thanks again. Thank you very much. That's it. That's the end.